Mark Schaefer
is now joining.
So I'll take a
Is
motion
now
on
joining.
approving the minutes of the September 1st meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Mike.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jackie. Any additions, changes, edits? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Approved. And then we'll move on to recognitions. Harm,
Yes,
Stacy,
we have one.
don't touch.
Rose between two thorns. So this one, we had a general staff meeting this morning, so we talked about this. And every now and then you get one where you say, it's sort of like, wait a minute, 20 years? And then Stacy and I were talking about, we're going to talk about this in a minute, the procurement department. She said, well, the procurement department has existed for as long as my daughter's been alive. That's how you remember it. I think I just saw her walk down the hill one day this week.
Yeah,
And
she wanted a ride, she
Right.
didn't want to take the bus.
I said, and then it dawned on me, it's Zoe, not Zoe. So that is really the story here. Stacy's been with us 20 years, and there's all this stuff about traveled around the state after college. None of that's important because she moves to Albany, and what's important is she comes here. But like a lot of people at Cdta, she didn't start as director of procurement. She started as an administrative assistant in the operations department. In fact, she reported to the director of transportation/operations. They had a lot of different titles back then. But about 15, 16 years ago, we laughed at our staff meeting about why the procurement position was created. It was created because, like, you basically wanted something, you went to somebody, typed up a purchase order for you. Honestly, I don't know if we kept track of it or not, but we usually found out at the end of the year when we tried to reconcile everything, and it's really hard to reconcile stuff. In fact, Mike and I were laughing about sometimes our inventories would have variances in 6 figures. We knew where everything was, we just sometimes couldn't find it. So procurement department was created, and I think you all know, most of you have been with us for a number of years, you know of the job that Stacy does, right? Heart and soul gets poured into it. If we define a policy, and Jamie likes this, if we define a policy in the procurement manual, we follow it, because Stacy makes sure we follow it. We have an issue going on right now with the procurement. I don't even blink, frankly, if there's an issue with procurement, Stacy handles it. We're working with Amanda. I don't, not even a second of concern. And that really is the way the procurement department operates. She's assisted by Alina. I can never pronounce Alina's last name.
Korenevskaya, which is
Right.
not good
Yeah.
either.
So try to read it, right? Korenevskaya, right? So it's just a phenomenal, she's done a phenomenal job. From nothing, creating something from nothing, working with us into what it is today. I would say it's as good a procurement department as anywhere. She's been very involved in ACTA, has taken an interest in what happens in the industry. She was a member of the ACTA leadership program several years ago. I think that provided valuable experience, gave Stacy a perspective that is, allowed her to do what she does. She's involved in pretty much all of our internal events. If you need something, she's there to help you. She's a fixture at these things. She enjoys, being a key part of what we do. Loves to travel. Just celebrated her birthday with a trip to Disney with Zoe. There've been a lot of Disney trips, right?
That's our thing.
That's her thing. A lot of Disney trips, which is great. This is what really, though, impressed me. And Vanessa does a lot of this legwork. She and Stacy sat down and I'm sure got into more than what's written on the page.
Probably.
Right? But she stuck with us for 20 years because she truly believes in what we do. Public transportation is a need in our region, and she enjoys being a key spoke in the wheel that connects communities.
Wow,
So,
Vanessa. She said it better than I did.
I just thought that was like the crown jewel of everything in here. And,
Credit where it's due.
really hats off to Stacy for her work, in really creating and ensuring that everything we do in procurement and really beyond, is top rate. Stacy, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And we've even upgraded this. You probably bought it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep up the good work. Congratulations, Brad.
Yep. So it's amazing to me that everywhere I look, I find people on this career ladder at Cdta. Who would have thought, Stace? But really has progressed through the company, increased her activity, increased her influence, and just another great Cdta story in my mind.
The next item on the agenda are the committee reports, and I'll lead off with the Board Operations Committee that convened on September 15th. We went over the agendas for the committee meetings last week in today's board meeting. Lisa Morello joined us for an advocacy update. She talked about the impact of Governor Hochul and her team as they transition into the office. She anticipates that there will be additional support for transportation initiatives and signature projects. And as always, Carmen and Lisa will continue to work with our legislative delegation to articulate Cdta issues and needs. We also talked about our pending board retreat. We had a very interesting conversation about it. We want to make this a meaningful time for the board to size up key challenges to the organization. Due to the pandemic, we've witnessed many changes, as you know. And on top of that, we've introduced new mobility options, and there are new funding streams coming about. So we must become better able to articulate our success, what success means to Cdta, and how we can measure success for everyone to understand. The changes are most apparent in our ridership levels and ongoing revenue sources, which we need to stack up alongside our new mobility and community partnerships this year and in the future. How we handle these changes will shape who we are, what we can be, and how we want to measure our success in the future. I believe this will be the focal point of the retreat. We intend to engage a consultant who is expert on these topics to talk with us and lead us through the discussion. The retreat is tentatively slated for the morning of November 19th. Our next committee meeting for the board operations is scheduled for Wednesday, October 13th here at 110 Waterville Avenue and Microsoft Teams. Any questions? I can answer them. Otherwise, we'll move on to Performance Monitoring and Audit Committee. Denise Figueroa.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the Performance Monitoring and Audit Committee met on September 22nd at 110 Waterville Avenue and on Microsoft Teams. We have a record of one consent agenda item for today, so it will be a short report. Our item that we have to bring before the board is approval of a contract for transit and facility advertising. This is always one that we enjoy bringing to the board for approval. Our transit and facility advertising is a revenue generating program that provides revenue from the sale of advertising on buses, shelters, and displays at our rail stations. An RFP was issued and we received 2 proposals. The staff recommends a contract to the incumbent Lamar OB Corporation. Lamar has provided this service for nearly 15 years, exceeding revenue guarantees and offering strong sales support services. In the new contract, the annual guarantee will increase 35% to $1.2 million. The annual guarantee increases every year for 10 years, And the revenue share increases in year 6 to 63% for Cdta. All in all, it's a very good arrangement for us. And so we are asking for a motion to award a 10-year revenue contract to Lamar OB Corporation of Frisco, Texas, with a minimum revenue guarantee of $13.5 million over the life of the arrangement.
Motion made.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jackie. Any discussion? How long has Lamar been kind of working with us?
15 years.
15 years.
already?
Yeah, this has been arguably one of our most successful partnerships. Lamar took over at a time when, honestly, I think we were getting, maybe on a guarantee, a couple $100,000 a year, but, it was always seemingly issues and complaints, whether it be from the installers or the community that they were selling to, the old firm. And Lamar came in, a national firm. We honestly, save for the fact they were a national firm, didn't know much about them. But they really come in and made us the signature property here in the Northeast that has allowed them to acquire systems like us up and down the I-90 corridor and into Massachusetts and Connecticut. What that has resulted in, I think, is more revenue generation opportunities for them and for us. Really, a really solid partnership.
Yeah.
Denise and Carm, is that length of a contract, a 10-year term, a standard length for these types of contracts?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's our length is usually 5 years, most of our contracts. However, we have very few revenue generating contracts, and the federal government has allowed revenue contracts to go longer than 5. They offered 5 and the option to go to 10, and the financial, as Denise said, goes up to 63%. Basically, we split the revenue 50-50. They're going to go to 63% in years 6 through 10. That makes it pretty attractive, Peter.
Yeah.
Are they involved in our television spots?
All they do is they sell the ads that you see on the sides of buses and in our shelters and in our facilities.
Oh, okay, they're the sellers, so
They sell.
Yeah.
you don't go out and knock on doors, they do.
No, they do not. We don't knock on doors. We help open doors if we can. Or they help open doors for us, frankly.
Right.
They have.
Georgia, you have a comment or question?
I do. Could you tell? I noticed on their scorecard that they received 9 points out of 15 for the DMWBE and SDVOB participation. I was wondering if they had a firm on board to assist with these services, who they were, and why they scored that way.
Our procurement expert can answer that.
Sure. So they have a firm on board that we actually already work with. Their name is Brt Digital Express. They are certified in New York State as a DBE as well as a WBE. They print our schedules. They will be doing printing work from them, and they've already confirmed that they will be partnering with them for subcontracting for some of their printing work.
Excellent. Thank you.
I don't think that was in the last contract, was it?
It was not. This is great.
So this is in addition to the new contract, which is great. That's
Well done.
broken record, sorry.
Great. Yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
I have a comment on advertising. I know we need the revenue, but as a regular rider, the big signs on the side of the buses that go across the windows, with a sort of a mesh, when it rains, make it almost impossible to see out the window to see where you are. And that's a problem.
Over time, we have controlled that and had Lamar pull back on designs of the ad so that we've minimized that. I understand the concern, Mark, and we'll continue to work with them. We for example, we don't do full illustrations. We used to do full illustrations. And we've cut back on that window mesh issue that you've talked about, but we'll continue to keep an eye on it.
Thank you.
Okay, good discussion. All those in favor of resolution 40, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution 40 is approved. Denise, you can keep going.
Okay, yes, continuing, the investment committee, met on, Monday, September 27th, and a report will be provided to the board shortly. That's our regular quarterly meeting where we review our investments. The other two items we have here, or three items rather, we have administrative discussion items. The first one is the risk management and workers' compensation quarterly reports. Amanda Avery provided a quarterly review on the adequacy of the risk management and workers' compensation self-insurance account. The committee determined that both accounts are adequate at this time. If anybody has any questions, I think Amanda's there. Okay, if none, I'll move on. We next had the monthly management report from Mike Collins. The mortgage recording tax continues to perform well with year-to-date revenue $2.4 million better than expectations. Customer revenue is 40% over budget through August, notwithstanding the lower budget expectations based on the pandemic. Rail station revenue continues to improve as train travel picks up, and the total revenue exceeded our budget by 11%. Wages are 2.2% under budget this month and 2.5% over budget for the year. Workers' compensation costs, and that's primarily because of the rate adjustment that happened, I believe, in May. And so that will even out as we go through the year because it's budgeted. So workers' compensation costs were under budget this month by 53% due to lower payments and insurance recoveries. So our total expenses are 2.8% under budget for the year. We remain in a very good financial position. We made a budget adjustment last month to reflect changes that took place after we approved our budget. So any questions on the financials? Okay. Moving on then, our monthly non-financial performance report, CARM provided that report this month. Ridership has spiked up in the past few weeks as the UA arrangements kick in and college students return to campus. Star ridership is up 62% from last year. Missed trips rather are high this month, and will be so in the foreseeable future as we try to balance services and manpower. Fixed route on-time performance was 75%. Star on-time performance was at 77%. And preventable accidents are at 32 this month. Non-preventable accidents are at 6. 40% of preventable accidents were on property, which is attributed to the construction taking place. Any questions on the non-financial performance report? If there are none, the committee meeting will meet next on October 20th at 110 Waterville East and on Microsoft Teams. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Community Stakeholder Relations Committee. Jackie Faltico.
Thank you. The Community and Stakeholder Relations Committee met on September 23rd at 11:15 a.m. We only had administrative discussion items, of which there were 2. To begin with, Jamie Caslow gave a report on seasonal services that operated over the summer. In total, there were 5 services that connected the community to access and opportunity within the capital region. 2 of those services, the Green Market Trolley and the Nature Bus, were new in 2021 and developed through community partnerships. The Green Market Trolley connected residents in the Hamilton Hill and Mount Pleasant neighborhoods of the city of Schenectady with the Schenectady Green Market to provide access to fresh foods and goods. Nearly 300 people took advantage of the free service. The Albany County Nature Bus kicked off on June 12th in partnership with the Mohawk Hudson Land Conservancy and several state and local agencies. The Nature Bus connected community members to several parks and was free to residents. Nearly 1,100 customers used the service. The remaining 3 seasonal services that were offered this year were the Saratoga Summer Trolley, service to Grafton Lake State Park, and Lawson's Lake. The Saratoga Summer Trolley performed strong with more than 11,000 rides, taking to popular spots along Broadway and the Saratoga Racecourse. The Navigator Summer Fun Pass was offered once again. Nearly 1,500 young people took advantage of the seasonal pass that allows unlimited access to our services from July 1st through August 31st for just $44. Cdta partners with Mr. Sub to sell summer fun passes each year. The second administrative discussion item was the monthly media and community relations report. During the last month, Cdta earned 15 media placements across television, radio, and online platforms. Some of the stories highlighted include our rollout of Flex service in southern Saratoga County, our new universal access partnership with Stewart Shops, and the work we are doing to help our area school districts as they struggle with yellow bus operator shortages like all schools across the country. Jamie also highlighted some of the upcoming events and announcements, including Car Share, the Real Men Wear Pink Bus Pull on October 15th, and the New York Public Transit Association Annual Conference at the end of October. There are no other questions? Comments? Yeah.
The Schenectady thing, did you say flea market or?
Green Market.
Free market?
Green.
Oh, green, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. It's farmer's market?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah.
Healthy food out.
Oh, okay.
Every Sunday.
Be there.
All year, outside or inside.
Really? Yeah. Where does it go inside?
Proctor's.
Oh.
That's Schenectady.
Come on to Schenectady, Joe. I'll buy you breakfast.
I'm not afraid. Used to be a
Nothing
lot
to
of counties in Schenectady.
Nothing to be afraid of.
Still is.
Any other comments, questions? No. All right. The next meeting of the committee will be on Thursday, October 21st at 11:15 a.m. via Microsoft Teams and here at 110 Waterville Ave.
Thank you, Jackie. We'll move on to the Strategic and Operational Planning Committee. Mike Michaud.
All right, first of all, Jamie, thank you for pinch hitting
No problem.
on short notice to chair the committee. The Strategic and Operational Planning Committee met last Thursday, 12 p.m., 110 Waterville Ave via Microsoft Teams. Also, there were 2 administrative discussion items, first being the Albany Intermodal update. Carm framed the conversation by explaining how this project dates back 10 years and essentially means replacing the Greyhound station in downtown Albany. Addressing Greyhound as the current property owner continues to be a topic for discussion, as well as the near-term goal of garnering state support to help access federal funds. Ross Farrell provided details on the project, including its location in downtown Albany, the history that began with one of the original convention center proposals, and the 10+ stakeholders involved. The committee discussed the goal of supporting mixed-use development and a new extension of downtown Albany and reinforcing downtown as a regional destination. The facility's size, tenants, amenities, and services were also discussed, along with the broader project of providing new pedestrian and bike connections. The second item was the Redline Brt Refresh. Ross Farrell and Jeremy Smith explained a project that will entail investing in upgrades to the BRT Redline, which launched in 2013. The objective is to match the level of transit and pedestrian infrastructure applied to the Blue Line and plan for Purple Line stations, while integrating new mobility services. We will also improve image and brand of Bus Plus and the comfort and convenience of BRT. The project entails 3 major components: the purchase of new articulated buses, improvement of roadways and intersections, and refreshing the stations and shelters themselves. The committee discussed the fleet plan and the phasing. Station upgrades include pylon replacements, heated sidewalks, heated shelters, solar and USB charging capabilities, upgrades to everything east of Quail, will be part of the Washington Western BRT implementation. The next meeting of the committee will be October 21st, 12 p.m. here at 110 Waterville Ave or via Microsoft Teams. That concludes my report unless there's other questions or comments.
Trailway still in business?
Yeah.
Are they agreeable to the big picture?
Trailways,
Yeah.
they're just gonna go wherever the bus station is. They're a tenant.
Oh,
Yeah, Greyhound is the owner. Adirondack, and we have a good relationship with Adirondack Trailways. I don't think that'd be an issue. There's lots of tenants. There's Greyhound, there's Adirondack, there's Peter Pan, there's a long list of, and there's smaller carriers that go in and out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes.
We'll move on to our next agenda item, the CEO's report. Kyle.
Thank you. As you can tell by the committee reports, there's a lot, back that up, there wasn't a lot of action items, but there's a lot of activity at Cdta. You've got new services, new universal access agreements, lots of connections, but best of all, from my perspective, rebounding of ridership. Late August, especially you'll see in September, we're bounced back now to somewhere between 75 and 80% of where we were post-pandemic. We've been waiting for this for a long time. It's really a result of the OGS, state worker transportation, finally kicking in. Return of college students to campus, but more importantly, I think they're more relaxed and feel a little bit better about traveling on our buses. And then other new universal access agreements helping us through. At the same time, we just keep breaking our own bike share record. We're now well over 50,000 rides. We'll probably end the season at 60,000 rides. Introducing scooter, expanding flex. As one of the committee reports, car sharing is around the corner. So good stuff, lots of activities, all positive, but at the same time lurking, behind the corner is COVID-19. Every time we think we're over the hump, we're not. September has not been a good month. 11, 12, I've lost track. I think it's 12 positives in the month. Hopefully that's it. We can close September. The majority, more than 2/3 of those are people who haven't been vaccinated. There are some breakthrough cases, but the majority are people who have not been vaccinated. And we're finding a lot of those people are people who have traveled. They go to another state, they come back, either they're sick, their spouse, their boyfriend, their girlfriend, their kids, whatever's sick, they're infected, and here we go again. It's a lot of work, frankly, for human resources, for the operating departments, frankly, for every department to keep track of things and make sure we do things the right way. As we said to a general staff meeting this morning, be patient. Sometimes we just don't have the answers. So it's not because people don't want to help or don't want to do something, but honestly, the guidance changes weekly, daily sometimes. If we think we have it right, guidance changes and we have to redo something. So we're used to it. We think we're settled, I think, into a good spot administratively, but it is a lot of work for human resources, operations, especially best to support all this. Meanwhile, October 1 is Friday. We've mandated that our workforce be vaccinated. It's working. We've gone from 58% of our workforce being vaccinated to 74% in a matter of 3 weeks. I don't think we have to be hard-edged with this. We're going to work with our employees to encourage them to be vaccinated and do what we need to do to get there. But 58% was not acceptable. 74% is starting to become a little bit more acceptable, and we can keep each other safe that way. It's difficult to keep each other safe when you're in the 50s.
Are Cdta employees covered under the governor's dictate?
Well, yeah, I guess they are, but we don't even know where that, as you say, mandate is.
Mandate.
Jackie works in the same field.
It kind of petered out.
We're not even sure it's a mandate.
Even after she laid off these people the other day?
So that's solely for medical.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's like a hospital setting, nursing home setting.
So that's an example of how things change, or frankly, you don't even get told if it changed. It's changed. So no, we're on our own. So that's why we're doing it a little differently. It's not a hard-edged mandate. It's please get vaccinated. We want you to be vaccinated. So as you know, Kelly would tell you, a lot of activity. We're vaccinating people very, very quickly. So we'll continue to work at that.
Or get tested, right?
Or get tested, right? You have to test.
So you gave it out.
Yeah, the out is just get tested, or if you can, if you have a medical exemption or you have a religious exemption, and we have a process for both of those, and follow the process, and we'll consider that as well. But 50, as I said, I keep saying 58% is not acceptable. We need to swing this a little bit. I think it's working. So if human resources and the other departments weren't busy enough, we need more employees. Unlike the other school bus companies and unlike some other transit authorities, we're not short bus operators. We've just brought in more work than we can accommodate right this very minute. But we need more people. We have a class. Actually, it started out at 21. It's down to 18 or 19. Depends on who's in, who's out. But large class in training right now was paused last week. It's back on. We're moving forward, and we have two classes right back of that, a 12 and a 20, that will start almost concurrently. One finishes, one starts. So about 50 new employees before the end of the year. If all goes as planned, that should get us to where we need to be and relieve us of a very tight situation right now. The operating personnel right now is standing on their heads, literally, to match work with people every day. It's not a pretty picture. It's generating the trip cut numbers that you see. But for perspective, 300 or 400 trip cuts in a month, we operate 70,000 trips a month. So it's all relative, but it doesn't matter if you might be impacted by one of those trip cuts.
I had a couple of complaints about the bus to the schools. They were fixed the next day. So,
Most of that.
And most of it's communication between the school and the kids.
If that's early in the school year, and it was, that's just everybody ironing out the kinks. Knowing where you live, I'll bet you it was Troy High. That's just ironing out the kinks. And that happens every year in with every school district that we operate. It's never perfect. It takes us a couple of weeks to get to good. And I think we're probably there now. Gary's not. So at the end of the day, the logical questions I wrote in my report is, what are the results and does it matter? And I think the ridership spike is proof positive that it does, and especially over time, the increase in star ridership tells you that it matters. And I think the board is on the right track in the retreat of talking frankly about how are we going to prove at the end of the day that we matter, we're relevant, we're important, because it can't just be in the ridership numbers. All the things that we've been doing during the pandemic and before the pandemic to be relevant in the community are gonna matter 2 years from now, when we have to prove to the federal government that the investment that they made in us, and that's a large financial investment, is worthy of consideration moving forward. You don't want to go backwards. I check the landscape often of what people are doing. Sometimes I agree, sometimes I disagree with transit systems. I think that we're at the forefront. I think we're doing the right things. I think we're set up to demonstrate it. And I think you're going to enjoy hearing from Mark Ash, who's our consultant, about ways to change the dashboard, about ways and he's deep into this. He's got a sample of about 10 or 12 transit systems that are feeding him information and data that he can use to show you, I think, a really interesting way to look at success and measuring success moving forward. So we talked about cycle, we talked about scoop. After what seems to be a lifetime of activity, the Montgomery County Legislature last night approved joining the authority. We're in virgin territory. Yes, thank you, Dave. But we've never done this. We've never had a county join. So we'll see how the. I guess this is like dating, right? And so now we're gonna. We want to get. We know we want to get married. The question is how do we get there? So we'll. If you trust me, we'll try to get the bride or groom to walk down the aisle with us. So that's, I guess, important step one. Important step two is getting the financial part of this to match up. God love Lisa Morello. Right now, her tact is don't give an inch. You know what our ask is for state operating assistance. We may have to give an inch at the end of the day, but it didn't take long. Last night, Mayor of Amsterdam texted me, "When are you coming?" So that's the next part of this. But it'll probably be in the next fiscal year. We know that the Amsterdam City School District is ready to join up. Put the UA agreement in front of them. They'll sign it tomorrow. So all that's good. It'll be good to go to a community that is really anxious to have us. They're not quite sure what that means, and we're going to have to prove our worth again. But I am 100% confident in the people who work here, and we'll get that done.
So we get an increase in STOA?
Well, that's...
And we get new properties and...
No, we get an increase, well, the resolution included them increasing the levy on the mortgage tax 1/4%. Honestly, in that county, it's not a lot of money. It won't even make a nick in what we need on the operating side. So we are now working with the state to increase our STOA, State Transit Operating Assistance, allocation as a result of taking on Montgomery County. Film at 11, we don't have that. That's the unfinished part.
I don't want to prolong things, but how do you come up with a number like that?
It was pretty easy. We just took the number of hours of service we anticipate adding, what the cost is, and calculated what we need. Now, will we get what we asked for? We'll see.
Taco's behind it too, right, on the federal level?
Taco's behind it. He's even carved out in the budget, the federal budget, money for eight new vehicles. But again, that's the capital side. That's the fixed side. We're really concerned about the operating side. It'll work out. It's just the work is not done, but the resolution is, as Dave says, that's step one. You can't get it done if there's not local support, local commitment. We now have that. Another sort of out of territory news I don't want to forget about is all summer and continuing through Columbus Day, our drivers and supervisors have been performing yeoman's duty in Warren County. We've been operating the seasonal trolley alongside of the Glens Falls, Greater Glens Falls Transit District. As you remember, they were severely short on drivers and asked us to help them. We've done that. We've been doing it now for several months. And that really is the first step towards opening the door to a relationship in Warren County and Washington County. We've made no secret of that. And we continue to have discussions with them. So, who knows? This might become more than just a 4-county service district pretty soon. That's a totally different scenario there. Service is already there. We know what it does. We know that it performs very well. We know what the finances are. So, lots of behind-the-scenes work there. I didn't want you to forget that every day our drivers are going up and down the Northway operating service. Although that transitions to just weekends now, right? Just Saturday. And construction activity. We're almost done in Troy. With the work on the inside of the building now, new laboratories, new break area, etc. as I was looking back on my career, when I came here, that building had just opened, and really there's not been significant upgrades to that building, so much needed. And then lastly, the work out back, I go out every couple of days and just look at it, watch them rebuild walls, and the new pits for the articulated lifts for the articulated buses moving along. It's all framed in, and the roof is on the extension. It's great. In the morning, you watch literally crews of guys and gals walking in. The front of the building, the redesign works perfectly. Everybody, I can't believe how everyone actually walks on the sidewalk. Very few people cut over the lawn. They're probably afraid to jump into the flowers that Jeremy Smith has planted. But it's nice when things start to come together. Jamie and I entertained a large group yesterday, our planning people, Metroplex planning people, people from the city of Schenectady. We're trying to get the first mobility hub to be constructed in downtown Schenectady. I think in concept we agree. Now we gotta get it all done, get it all planned. But I think that's the perfect location for our first mobility hub, which will bring buses, bikes, scooters, cars all together and form a nice place for people to wait for mobility choices. That's it, really, I guess, for my report. But hats off to the men and women around the table, and the men and women who don't come to the meetings, and really to the board for supporting this. Sometimes feeling like spaghetti up on the wall. How many different directions can you go at once? I don't think we're there yet. I think we can go a couple more. But every time it's easy for me to say yes, because then everybody else has to do the work. But I think we're doing the right things, and I think it's going to set us up at the end of this, when the pandemic hopefully is over, for us to say that we played an important part in the region's recovery, and we're important moving forward. I think that's where everyone's going to be challenged in our industry. I know a lot of you are involved at the national level, Dave, specifically Dave and Denise, but a lot of transit systems are struggling. There's an article in today's paper that I shared with a couple people, the MTA, our big cousin, down the street. They're starting to say, what happens now? Where are we going? Ridership is not rebounding. It's not going to be 100%. So how are you going to measure success? With that, I'm done.
Big and bold, right, Dave?
Thank you, Carr.
Well, just to back up, Dave was the guy who stole that line from Wahad. But also, Dave is the guy who he and I had the first conversation. This goes back 10 years more, where it was real simple concept. We have to be at the table initially rather than after the fact, and whatever the discussion might be. And I think that's where we've really made the most amount of progress. I don't know how you measure that, but we're at the table, whether it be planning tables, economic development tables, community tables. We're way more present today than we were 10 or 15 years ago.
Even in the 3 years that I've been gone, the operation has grown. I'm kind of starting all over again. I thought I knew everything, but I don't.
It's good acknowledgement, Jeff. Well, we're still in transition. It's an interesting, very interesting period for the company right now. We just keep at it and see where we come out on the other side. I'll open up for any board comments. Anybody have anything to add or contribute or another topic to discuss?
No, what about the flex in Saratoga? I know it's early.
Southern Saratoga?
Yeah.
Got a great report this morning from Lindsay Garney. She said, yes, it's great. Ridership's in double figures. We didn't expect it to be hundreds and hundreds, but it's a slow, every day it seems like the number pops up a little bit. but there's so much community support up there. Again, it doesn't, the beauty of Flex is it doesn't need thousands and thousands of rides. It needs, hundreds of rides, in the hundreds, and we're good to go. So it's getting there, doing well. And
There's a lot of support.
we have a lot of political support, which, honestly, was important because over the years, we've tried so many 40-foot bus experiments that we knew wouldn't work, didn't work, and we couldn't really garner community and political support. I think we've done it with Flex. Again, it's new, it's a couple weeks in, but I think we're headed in the right direction there.
I just wanted to pass along, the Schenectady City School District, Superintendent Management Team, and then community members, all very, very happy with the service you guys are offering. So.
That's the great operations juggle. John Scherzer gets us in the door, then the operations guys and gals put it together. Also, you should know that he is, Rochester?
Yeah.
He came from Rochester where they rely heavily on RGRTA, so that helps. He kind of gets it and knows what to expect from an entity like us, but yeah, there's more service on the street, there's more buses on the streets of Schenectady. It's good for everybody.
I think everybody's gonna be asking for it.
Well,
I know it's hard, but.
Well, we're talking to just, in all seriousness, we're talking to several school districts right now. And, mainly the urban districts, but now it's the adjoining districts to the urban districts. For us, it'll at some point, it will be, we're close now, capital, the vehicles to do it. It's not, there is an end, we can't, there's a limit to what we can do. And then it'll become, scheduling. And then it's employees, number of people, and, we're starting to talk about part-time workforce and things like that with the union. And that's a difficult conversation, but in fairness to the ATU, they're open and are willing to discuss just about anything. No promises that they can sell it, but at least they're willing to engage in conversation. That's all we can ask.
Is there any thoughts of building charging buildings in various counties where the buses would run?
Well, yeah, I think if I know what you're asking, we're looking at new facilities for ourselves. I mean, we're outgrowing and out-aging the buildings, so new buildings and then remote charging.
Yes.
Yeah. But right now, we have 4 with 4 more on the way. We're a little distance away from that being real today. But, I could see us getting into leasing vehicles. I could see us getting, we could go on, and I don't want to belabor this, but, I thought about us becoming a regional training center. I mean, everyone seems to have trouble finding and hiring help, and we're all competing for the same people. Maybe we become the entry point, and we provide the basic training, and then we ship them out to whoever needs help. Maybe we build a regional training center as part of some new development. I mean, Jackie and I have been talking, the county does a lot of business with us, especially on the social service side, where they buy our fare products. So what we're talking about is rolling in one universal access program, and then that serves as the enticement for employees to be able to use our services to get to and from school. And then it was, well, gee, we've got our nursing home on the other side of the river, sort of outside the service area. Maybe we find a way to flex them in. Those are the kinds of discussions that we are having with a lot of different people, like all the time. All the time, like literally every day. But it does stretch the limits of something.
Anything else from anybody? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. We'll see you again on October 27th.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Aye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
These are public meetings.